Good morning. How often are we supposed to do all the things that we're supposed to do in daily life? There are things about cleaning and washing and hygiene and maintaining things in our life, the personal items we use, the household things, our automobiles, everything. And sometimes we think we know, and sometimes we're probably right. But there's a lot of things out there that the experts tell us we're supposed to be doing, we have no clue about. And they may not be hard and fast rules, but they're good suggestions to know about. And so we're going to talk about that today. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Well, good morning. Once again, good morning, and welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve on this Saturday, June 24th, 2023. June 24th. This is the final week. We're going into the final week in the month of June. The year will be halfway over, halfway finished. So I hope you're having a good start to the summer. Hope you've been able to get out and do some outdoor activities and that the weather is permitting that. In some parts of the country, we've still got very heavy storms, tornado warnings, thunderstorms, even tropical storm warnings. And in other parts of the country, there's been excessive heat that poses a hazard to some people. So I hope wherever you are staying safe. I hope that you are able to maintain some activities. Say good morning here to Chelan. Good morning. Carissa's on here. Rick Venturi is on here, Carla Venturi, Jerry Zetterval. Good morning to all of you. And as you do join the conversation this morning, please do say hi in the chat. We'd like to know that you're here and like to be able to respond and welcome you to the show. And once we get into our topic today, which is going to be, I think it's interesting. And it's interesting to me. I hope that you can get into the conversation as well. I want you to participate in that with your comments, with your questions, maybe your own suggestions about some of the things that we have to use in daily life. And I'll tell you in a few minutes kind of what this was prompted by, how this started, and kind of how it took on a life of its own and what we're doing about it. But first, let's talk about some special days that are coming up this week. Hi, Jay Zetterval. Hi, Kathy Garlick. Good to see you here. Special days for the week of June 24th through June 30th. And final week. It's interesting. Today, among other things, is something called Summer's Giving. And apparently it takes place on the Saturday after the summer solstice, which, beginning of summer was this last week. And the first Saturday, Summer's Giving apparently is designed to be a way for people. We know about Thanksgiving. Time to bring family together to be thankful for the things that we have in our lives, the people we have in our lives, the blessings, even some of the challenges. Well, Summer's Giving is sort of designed as a point in the midway part of the year after summer has started to recognize the blessings around us and to appreciate the people and find a way to gather those people around us before the holiday season. It can be for picnics. It can be for some kind of a fun gathering or outing or games or whatever. So that's today. It's always the first Saturday after the summer solstice. If you are of a mind to do it and can do something spontaneous, to whether you gather a bunch of people together at the last minute or just do something on your own to recognize all of the wonderful things in our world and the blessings. And again, if the weather is allowing you to get out and do that, do it. Tomorrow, the 25th of June, is National Strawberry Parfait Day. Doesn't that just look refreshing? Just that picture. It's not something I've had. I think I've had strawberry parfaits before. I know I've had parfaits. I don't know if I've ever had one that's quite that fresh and fancy looking, but that would be something I could participate in. I could have a Summer's Giving celebration eating strawberry parfait. Is that something that appeals to you? Could you see yourself enjoying a strawberry parfait? And I don't know if they are more relevant. There's certain parts of the country where certain types of desserts or other things are more prevalent. Like in the South, you see more of the banana pudding or the mint juleps, those types of things. I don't know if strawberry parfaits are more popular or more prevalent in certain areas. Um, let's see what else we got. And if you're not into that, the following day, if you're not into the strawberry parfaits, or even if you are, the 26th, which is Monday, is National Chocolate Pudding Day. I'm a chocolate fan. Not everybody is into chocolate, but I am into chocolate, and chocolate pudding. Yeah, I could go for that as well. Don't know if that's your thing. Let us know if either the strawberry parfaits or the chocolate puddings are something you would get into. Why would they ruin chocolate pudding like that? Carissa asks. Yeah, I know. It's, well, to each his own, to each his or her own. I'm like you, Carissa. I think at most on chocolate pudding, maybe some whipped cream. I don't necessarily need other things in or on my chocolate pudding, but sometimes it's just there for garnish, just there for presentation. This one I think is worth mentioning. The 27th of June, which is Tuesday, is National PTSD Awareness Day. PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, is something that affects a lot of people for a variety of reasons. It can come about for any number of reasons, but typically it is defined and diagnosed as being stress, anxiety, even panic attacks or other things that can affect mental and emotional health tied to some past trauma. And past trauma can be something from childhood. It can be something in our adult lives that has affected us very traumatically. I have family members who deal with PTSD. And so this National Awareness Day is a day that we can remember that it exists, look at resources online. There are organizations you can contribute to that support both research about and treatment of PTSD, something to keep in mind. And then I threw this one in there for a couple of reasons. The 28th is National Insurance Awareness Day. Now, most of us go, okay, why? Why do we need to be aware of insurance? I worked in the insurance industry for a number of years in the early part of my career. And one of the things that I became aware of pretty early working there, and now there's so many situations in life where maybe we're required to carry insurance. If you own an auto and you have it licensed like you're supposed to and registered, then you're supposed to carry automobile insurance. Renters, it used to be when I was first renting, it was optional. Now most owners of rental property require that you carry renter's insurance to cover loss of your own property and to cover liability, et cetera. And then there are other things like life insurance and medical insurance and a variety of things. And one of the things that I discovered working in the insurance industry is very often people will just carry the very minimum that they are required to carry by law for some of the insurance that they have, and or the very minimum in terms of what they think they can afford. And the bottom line is that's not always sufficient. I'm not going to spend an episode here talking about insurance, at least not right now. But it's just good to go back and check your policies, make sure you understand what your policies cover, make sure you are looking to see, do you think they're sufficient? Talk to your agent, talk to a broker, do some research online and determine if indeed you have the right kinds of insurance and if you have sufficient coverage for your specific needs. That's all I'm going to say about that. See if anybody else has joined. I think still the same people on here. If you have just joined our conversation, please say hi in the chat, participate in the conversation so we know that you're here. And by the way, you may be watching this recorded later on. You may not be watching live. You may tune in later. You can still make comments in the chat. At least I know on Facebook. I think you can on YouTube as well. We're live on both platforms. But participate in the chat so we know that you tuned in later on to watch what we were doing. National Waffle Iron Day. It's interesting that this is Waffle Iron Day and not Waffle Day. It's June 29th, which is Thursday. And it's just to celebrate the fact that we have these lovely little devices that we can make the patterned waffles on. And, I was looking at some things about this. And did you know that the first waffle irons that they know about were actually developed and were being used in the 14th century? They were used over an open flame. But even then, they were designed to have designs. And oftentimes they were religious symbols, or they were family crests, or they were other meaningful symbols that were cast into the iron or whatever was being used to create that mold. But they were making waffles hundreds of years ago. Now we mostly have the electric waffle irons, but you can get some creative patterns even with those. So do you have a waffle iron? And if so, is it a standard pattern like they're showing in this picture? Is it for Belgian waffles, regular waffles, whatever waffles? And do you have anything that has a specific special pattern in it that's a character or based on a theme of some kind? Let us know in the chat. Curious about you and waffle irons. And then the 30th, which is Friday, is Social Media Day. Mentioning that because social media can be both the boon and bane of our existence, right? There are so many things out controversial about elements of social media. And yet I find that for me, at least, access to social media is also a great connector to family and friends. In fact, if you're here today watching live, social media is our friend, right? It's our virtual coffee table. It's what brings us together. So the 30th is Social Media Day. It's a good day to kind of review your social media accounts, both from the positive and potentially negative or detrimental side. How much time are you spending on social media? If you have kids or grandkids or other kids in your care, are you keeping an eye on how they're using social media, or if they're using it at all? Should they be? And then a couple of birthdays I'm going to call out this week. Nilu Nouri, a dear friend, and Nilu has been on Coffee Breaks. In fact, Nilu was one of the very first guests who appeared on Coffee Breaks with Steve, going back, I think, almost 3 years ago now. And she came on during the pandemic to share about a special cookbook she had written for her sons and published through the pandemic. So happy birthday to Nilu on Tuesday. And then the 29th, Jared Garlick is celebrating a birthday on June 29th. So happy birthday to Jared. I don't see him on here today, but Jared has tuned in the past. And I know he's got family on here, so you can pass our Coffee Breaks with Steve birthday greeting on to Jared as well, if you don't mind. Just let him know that we were thinking about him. Do you have a special day this week that I didn't pick up on? Could be a birthday, could be an anniversary, could be something else special for you or an immediate family member. If you'd like us to celebrate and acknowledge that, put it in the chat right now so we make sure we see it there. And then if you've got one coming up in the month of July, you can email me at cbwsteve@comcast.net and let us know that it's coming up so we make sure we do include it. You can also private message me if we're connected on Facebook. I'll look for those. Just find me and give me that information. Love to have that info. All right. I think that's it. I think that's all I've got on the special days, but I want yours too. Oh, good. Carla says she'll see Jared at book club right after Coffee Breaks with Steve. Let him know that we were thinking about him, and we'll be thinking about him on his birthday too. All right, listen, I'll tell you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. I want to tell you about the topic, and I want to share a little bit about how we got into this. But a while back, I saw an article that was talking about our misconceptions. Sorry, I'm going to do this. Shalane, I hope you're keeping an eye. About doing laundry, different articles of clothing, bedding, linens, towels, etc. How frequently, how often we should actually wash those. And it was, some of it was actually a revelation to me. I thought that could be interesting to talk about. Well, in typical style, as I started looking into it, I became aware that there were a lot of other things that we don't know how often we're supposed to be doing. And the list is endless. I mean, you could go on forever. And I almost did. And I had to stop myself as I was researching and putting together this little presentation that we're going to talk about in a minute. But I found that because there were so many things that I even wanted to share, it was going to be too long for a Coffee Breaks with Steve episode. So I'll mention this a couple of times. It'll be online afterwards for people to find. But I pre-recorded my talking through the entire presentation. And that recording is a little over, it's about 36 minutes long. So you can see how that would be too long, just that alone, almost, for Coffee Breaks. But that is going to be on the Coffee Breaks YouTube channel, and it will actually be available to go if you want to watch all of the slides, the entire presentation, right after this show. At 10:15 this morning Pacific time, that should go up online and be available, or shortly thereafter. What you're going to see here is a somewhat cut down, abbreviated version of the same presentation. Still shares what I think is some useful information. And I'll mention again a couple of times that you can go to the YouTube channel. The other thing I'm asking is that if you do go to that YouTube channel and you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the videos that you're watching. Got a number of our past episodes of Coffee Breaks with Steve that are on there. And as you subscribe to those, to my channel, and you like those videos, it increases the visibility. It means that those videos are going to go a little more to the forefront in searches. And that means more people are going to see them. More people have the opportunity to subscribe. And the reason for that is that we have so many great topics. And I think even more so, we have so many great guests who are agreeing to come on Coffee Breaks with Steve. I want to make sure that they get the appropriate audience for what they want to join us and talk about. The more subscribers we have, the more people have an opportunity to see some of the great guests and participate in some of the topics. So I ask you to please do that after the show. But in the meantime, let's talk about some of these things that we don't know how often we should. And again, sometimes we do. And sometimes we're already like, yeah, I've known that all along. The other thing is, these are guidelines. This isn't like, if you don't do it this way, you're in trouble. And in fact, I'm going to put up this disclaimer to begin with. I'm not an expert. I'm not a professional. I'm a consumer. I'm a person who is interested in knowing how to take care of myself and take care of my things, my stuff. And so that's what this is about. I'm not telling you that this is what you should do, and I'm not speaking to you from a perspective of expertise. Sharing information that I found online, that's researchable online, and where I have specific sources to share, I'm sharing those sources as well. So just to give you that up front and make sure you know that. So the first one is, how often should we be taking care of aspects of our personal hygiene? And there are a variety of things that go with that, but one of them is showering and shampooing our hair, cleaning our hair. A lot of us like to take those marathon showers. I know I get in a nice hot shower and I want to stay in there forever. And I remember growing up, and this can be relevant for some people. I was kind of told, when I was in those, especially when I was in those teenage hormonal changing, sweating a lot aspects of my life. It's like, shower every day, please. Shower every morning before you go to school, or later on before you go to work. And if you've been doing stuff that's getting you grimy and dirty or sweaty, shower afterwards. Or if you've gone to the gym or something, that's still relevant. It's not to say that you shouldn't shower with that frequency, but and that's what this talks about. This information that I got says it's not one size fits all, but and daily showers might be all right for people, and they may actually be more healthy for some people, but that's not necessary in every single case. And some of the things that the experts will say is that you may only need to shower and shampoo your hair maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And you don't have to get in every single morning. In fact, for some people, showering too frequently can actually cause skin to dry out. It can actually wash away some of the good bacteria that forms on our skin that helps prevent disease. So if you have doubts about it, if you're curious, or if you think, what, I'm going to continue to do it, I'm doing, that's fine. But if you have doubts, you can always talk to your own medical professional and find out what is best for you. So again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm sharing some things that you might want to consider. Dental care, this is another one. And I think most of us grew up knowing most of this, but the American Dental Association, which was the source of the information I'm putting on here, recommends brushing the teeth for at least 2 minutes twice a day. And we have different kinds of toothbrushes that we use, right? Some of us use electric toothbrushes. Some use just the manual toothbrush. We're not talking about what kind of toothbrush you should use here, but they say for at least 2 minutes twice a day. And this part was a little bit interesting to me. Once before breakfast and once before bed. Now, when I was being raised, one of the things that you often heard was brush after every meal and before bedtime. And this, instead of after every meal, they're saying at least, and again, guidelines and minimum recommendations from the ADA, before breakfast. They're not saying do it right after breakfast, before breakfast. And what I have heard, the reason for that is that, you get residue that builds up in your mouth dries out overnight. That brushing first thing in the morning before you eat breakfast, before you start drinking coffee, removing some of that plaque and residue from your teeth prevents food and beverages from kind of taking hold and adding to the problems. So they say do it first thing in the morning and last thing before you go to bed. Flossing at least once a day, and then of course your regular dental checkups. And again, I'm curious, does this fit with any of this that we're talking about so far, fit with your habits, fit with what you've been suggested to do by others, and how you go about what works for you? What works for you? This is one aspect of recommendations. This was the part that prompted all of this. How often should you do laundry? And I pulled this directly off of Good Housekeeping's site, and you'll see their name down at the bottom of this. This was just an actual slide from their website that talks about how often you need to wash everything. And you'll see things on here. There's after every wear, there's a category, every day, every 3 wears, every week, every month, every 3 months, every 6 months. And one of the things I don't see on here specifically, unless I'm just looking past it, is like underwear, like, my jockey shorts, that type of thing. And I think that kind of falls into the same, and the same thing with socks. I think those fall into the category of everywhere. At least that's how I continue to do it. Right. I mean, I'm not going to continue to wear my underclothing multiple times. Now, there's a difference here. You'll see that there is an every 3 wears is inclusive of things like, for women, bras and slips. And they're saying you don't necessarily need to wash those after every single wear. And I can understand that. I'm not a woman. I don't wear a bra or a slip typically, but I can understand that. So the ones that kind of got to me were things like the dish towels every day, hand towels, washcloths. But you think about the fact that as you're using those, they can collect bacteria. So I understand it's not, you don't want to let those just settle. But looking at the things on here, are there any things that either you go, yeah, I'm on track with all of that, or that surprises you about the recommendations from Good Housekeeping about frequency, how often you should wash things? Cleaning and replacing certain personal items. This was another one I think we sometimes miss. And the first one was, how often should we clean the toothbrush? And the recommendations that I saw online said you should clean it weekly. You should clean your toothbrush every week. We think about the fact we're using the toothbrush to clean our teeth, the inside of our mouth, but what's gathering on that toothbrush in between that we're then putting in our mouth, right? Gross, but true. So it talks about different ways here that you can go about cleaning it that are recommended. Soaking your toothbrush in an antibacterial mouthwash like Scope or Listerine or something, and then rinse it thoroughly before you use it again. So you just keep it in a cup, replace that mouthwash, and that's one way to do it. Everyday cleaning, you can store your toothbrush in a small cup of hydrogen peroxide, and then when you brush your teeth, switch that out. Hydrogen peroxide, when it sits for a period of time, is my understanding, again, I'm not an expert, but it's my understanding that after a number of hours, hydrogen peroxide that's just sitting in an open container actually turns into like saline. So but I would still probably rinse my toothbrush after I was soaking it. Then talks about you can boil it, you can use the dishwasher, you can actually purchase ultraviolet lights that are specifically designed to sanitize toothbrushes. So it depends on what extent you want to, how you use your toothbrush, and then replacing the toothbrush. They say that you should this was another one. I mean, I think most of us look and we go, yeah, the bristles are getting all frayed, it's time to replace it. But they say you should think about replacing it every 3 to 4 months. I've seen other places, resources that say every 6 months. We always keep extra toothbrushes on hand so that when it's time, we can swap them out and get rid of the old one. With electric toothbrushes, typically you can replace the head, the actual brush part, and get replacement brushes to go on the handle, the electric handle. So is that something that you have adhered to? How long do you normally keep your toothbrush? Do you even know? How do we keep track of that? Are we putting something on our calendar that says replace toothbrush? That's true with some of this stuff. Is I go, okay, if it says to do it every X number of months, do I know what that looks like? Cleaning the hairbrush. Sometimes we pull all the excess hair out of the hairbrush, but there are actually guidelines for cleaning it and using a cleaning solution. Because again, when you're brushing your hair, it's picking up stuff that's in your hair and on your scalp. And it's probably not a bad idea to clean the hairbrushes. And they say every 2 weeks, every couple of weeks. Once again, what do you do? How do you manage my hair is so relatively short. I do use a brush to kind of get it, to not just stick straight up or fall in my face when it's long enough. I oftentimes just finger comb my hair. But how do you, and I would imagine some of this that's referring to brushes could be used for hair combs as well. And then replacing the hairbrush, they say you should replace your hairbrush about every 6 months. But the other part of that guideline was, look at the bristles or the teeth, depending on what kind of hairbrush it is, depending on how you use it, how frequently you use it. Is it showing signs of wear? Is it going to, if it's missing teeth or the bristles are starting to get worn down or they're breaking off, that type of thing, yeah, probably time to replace the hairbrush. This one, ladies, primarily. Men, you may use makeup too. But cleaning the makeup brush, they say you should clean the brushes that you use to apply makeup every 10 days to 2 weeks. And how should you go about doing that? They talk about, again, things that you can do to rinse them out and then dry them and sort of air dry. And again, you're applying to your face. You're getting around parts of your body that more easily communicate and transfer germs and bacteria and stuff. So they're just talking about things that you can do. And it also increases the life of your makeup brushes. And then they talk about replacing, if you're washing them regularly, they say they should last for 1 to 3 years. So that's one of those items that you can hang on to for a while. Makeup sponge, cleaning the makeup sponge. They say you should clean your makeup sponges after every use. And if you think about that, that makes sense because you're applying something, and with the sponges, they're absorbing a lot. The makeup itself, as well as other factors that may be on your skin, even if you're washing your face thoroughly before you apply the makeup, what are you collecting in there and what could grow inside that sponge? So they talk about washing it after every use and then air drying the sponge, which is going to keep you healthier and probably maintain the life of that sponge a little bit longer. And then they say that you should replace makeup sponges about every 1 to 3 months, again, depending on your use, depending on the wear of the sponge and its condition and how frequently and effectively you're cleaning it to help make it last. Again, looking for your feedback, and I want to see your input on here as well about that. And I see some of you already doing that, so thank you. How about cleaning house? Oh man, housework, doing the cleaning. We do keep up with cleaning our house, but I will tell you, we have guest areas that aren't used as frequently. They don't get touched quite as often as some of the other parts of the house. And here they talk about the kitchen and what you should be doing. Deep cleaning every week or two. All of this is going to depend on use, right? Depends on what you're doing in the kitchen, how much cooking you're doing, how many dishes you're using, how you go about preparing food. And so they're talking about things about dishes and countertops every day. Don't let them pile up in the sink. All of this is for sanitation, as well as just being able to keep up with it. When we let things go too long, the task of getting it done becomes a bigger job. We're just kind of cleaning up things as we go, which is what I try to do. It's not you're not looking at it and going, gross, I got to take care of that. But things like wiping down the refrigerator from top to bottom, looking at expiration dates on the food, etc. I will be honest and say I don't do that as frequently as I should. We just don't in our house. I mean, we do from time to time. I would not say that this is, I think I don't remember what they're saying is here. They're talking about how to do it, but I think they're talking about doing that every couple of weeks as well, the deep clean. And we maybe go through our refrigerator more on, I mean, we'll look for things that are obviously getting old and need to be taken care of, either eaten right away or disposed of in some fashion. But I don't think we do it once every, couple of weeks, maybe once every month that we'll go through and really do the deep cleaning. Microwave, coffee maker. You can also, this is referring specifically to the pod makers like Keurigs. You can also find information online about cleaning out the inside of your brewer, your brew coffee maker, and how to do that. And then mopping once a week, cleaning up spills immediately, which makes sense. Yeah, you don't want to let spills sit on the floor or the counters or any surface for any length of time. Bathrooms. I'm the primary bathroom cleaner in our home, have been for years. I don't mind doing it, and I like to do a very thorough job. And so they say sinks and counters should be cleaned once a week. When ours are being used regularly, we do. Toilets, yes. Try to clean frequently used toilets at least once a week. One of the things they talk about is not just the use of the toilet, but just the water sitting in there can create those hard water rings. And the more frequently you clean the inside of the toilet with a brush and some cleanser, the less likely it is that you're going to get those buildups of those hard water calcifications that make it harder to clean those out. And then it talks about the bath mats and the tubs and the showers. And they talk about cleaning those once every week or two, and then the floors. So, it's good to keep up with those. Living room, family room, and they talk about those rooms where you regularly gather, and you should clean those once a week. Dusting, vacuuming, sweeping and mopping hard surfaces. You can use vacuum attachments to get some of the surface stuff off of your chairs, your couches, and your chairs. And then there are certain materials on those chairs that have their own cleansers that you can use. Leather, you can use a damp cloth to wipe down vinyl. There are actually cleansers that you can use for some of the cloth materials. We want to research each one of those, right? And then they talk about steam cleaning carpets and rugs a couple of times a year. How often should you address home maintenance? Home maintenance, I have to start by saying I'm not a tool guy. I'm not one of those people who likes to do the do-it-yourself stuff. I can do much of what is mentioned here. There are other things that I would need assistance with, and that may be you too. Both, there could be a variety of reasons. It may not be, there may be things that you feel you need more expertise with. There may be that you are, because of your age, because of physical capabilities, that you may say, I need somebody else to come in and either assist or do that for me, a professional. Maybe sometimes it's just even a neighbor, a relative, a friend who can come, who has more expertise or is physically more able to do things, or at least assist you with doing things. That's always wise to consider. For me, it's wise to consider because I don't want to screw things up. I know that I'm not as good, and I could miss something with some of this. But some of it is just straightforward and basic. Like they talk about every month, clean the furnace filter to remove the dust. And that helps both with the efficiency, but it can also be a safety thing. For allergies and other things, you don't want to be blowing all that guck through your house if it starts to build up in the filters or in the vents. Check the water softener. If you've got a water softener, a water filter that uses salt pellets, talk about doing that. Cleaning faucet aerator shower heads to keep the mineral deposits down. I do the sink drains, the tub and sink drains for debris as I'm cleaning the bathroom. So that's just part of my norm there. And then testing smoke alarms. Testing all the alarms in your house and anything, that's for safety. The fire extinguishers, carbon monoxide, smoke alarms, ground fault circuit interrupters, push those buttons, reset them, make sure that they're still working. And then also monthly, inspect electrical cords for wear, sometimes by getting kinked up or something gets on top of electrical cords and they start to get frayed or they start to get kinked. And that can actually create overheating. That can be a safety issue as well. Vacuum heat registers and heat vents. Check that indoor and outdoor air vents are not blocked. Health and safety with all of this. They talk about flushing the water heater, cleaning garbage disposal. Again, any of this come to you and you're going, oh man, I haven't been doing that. I need to start doing that, or I think I'm keeping it up with it sufficiently. How often, and by the way, with all of these, there's additional, for instance, with the home maintenance on the longer version that is going to be on YouTube, you will find out not only what you should be doing monthly, but what they recommend doing seasonally for each of the seasons to prepare for the coming season, for that season and the coming season. So you'll want to take a look at that. And then the other categories that we've already talked about, house cleaning and taking care of your personal items, there's more information on the version on YouTube for that as well. How often should you have automobile service? Automobiles are another one of those things. They're a necessity in life for many of us, for most of us probably. And seeing a warning light or having something not start to sound right or work right on my car is one of the biggest stressors, because I don't want the car to break down somewhere. And repairs, once it gets to a broken point, can be expensive. Sometimes it's not cheap just in terms of even the maintenance, but maintaining is better than having to repair or replace, isn't it? So they talk about some things here, and this is from Kelley Blue Book, a very non-biased source that is useful for a lot of things, including knowing what cars are valued at, what you should be paying, etc. But they also give advice about maintenance of your vehicles. And they talk about monthly checkups. Yeah, or Burst Excellen's mentioning something here that happened to us a few years ago where I was driving what was then our minivan to go pick up our grandsons at their school for a long weekend. And the car started acting up. The vehicle started acting up on the way, and engine light came on, and it was kind of lugging and stalling. And I did not want to drive it back home. I got as far as their school, and we called AAA to tow it back to the dealership to be looked at. And while it was at the dealership, Carol picked us up in our other car, took us home. And about an hour after we dropped it off, the dealership called to let us know that while it was sitting in their service lot, waiting for them to take a look at it, it burst into flames and totally destroyed the vehicle. So yeah, vehicle maintenance. They talk about monthly checkup, checking lights, making sure everything's working. That's easy to do because you can turn those on, get out of the car and look. I have somebody else look as you check the headlights, the fog lights, brake lights, turn signals, etc. Oil and coolant levels, tire pressure, and tread depth, all good for safe travel and also just for, I think, peace of mind. And then they talk about here 1 year checkup, what you should do annually, and talking about air filters, brakes, inspecting shocks and struts, coolant, antifreeze. That obviously ties into changes in the seasons. And then long term, we keep our cars longer than many people used to. Many cars now run for well over 100,000 miles, sometimes well over 200,000 miles. So over the long term, things that we need to do are mentioned here. And by the way, you'll see that most of this is referring specifically to gasoline or diesel powered vehicles. There's nothing on here that I'm showing right now that I'm aware of that relates specifically to electric cars or maybe even hybrid. I know that those have different needs. They run differently. They require different maintenance, and not trying to deal with all of that, just giving you some basics. But talking about changing tires, looking for the wear and tear on a regular basis helps you know when to change those. You may also, as I do, I'm very fortunate, I have a good mechanic who I trust. And so, and your owner's manuals for your cars will give you good guidelines as well. And you can, that's in the book form, but you can typically now find that information online as well. So you can look things up and look up information that is good for you to know about maintaining your vehicle. Well, listen, that's what I wanted to share in this presentation. And I will once again mention the fact that I'm not presenting this from the perspective of being a professional or an expert on any of these things. I'm a consumer. I may not be an expert. I think I do a pretty good job of house cleaning and teeth brushing and showering and that type of thing. But we all have things that we can learn. And this is presented just for that purpose. We learn things as we go, and we encounter things, and sometimes we go, wow, and sometimes we just go, huh, and sometimes we shrug it off. And all of that is perfectly fine depending on your situation. Yeah. And again, I would encourage you to go to the YouTube channel after watching all of this, just to take a look at that. And the other thing about the longer video on YouTube, a lot of information there. You can skip past certain things, fast forward past certain things if it's not relevant or if it's part of what we already shared here. You may want to rewatch some of the things. All of the stuff that was shared here is in that video plus. And the other thing is you can freeze frame on certain things. Pause the video if you want to take a closer look at something that maybe I moved past a little bit quickly on there. But it's, again, about 35, 36 minutes long. It's me jabbering like I did here, only for that period of time to talk about it. And it does provide you with some reminders and opportunities to subscribe to that channel. And I would personally, I'm not begging, at least not yet, I would personally ask you to do that. I will tell you this, we'll be talking about this more as we get later into the summer, but there are going to be some things coming up starting in the fall that are going to enhance the YouTube channel even more. We'll continue to bring Coffee Breaks with Steve here the way we've done it for the last 4+ years. And you can still tune in live here. We're still going to have all the stuff that we do live, but there's going to be enhanced and additional information regularly on YouTube starting in the fall. So if you are subscribed now, you'll be even more aware of those things when they come up. And there may be things like we've done for this episode where there is additional content between now and the fall that we want to put exclusively on the YouTube channel, so you'll have access to that as well. All right, listen, you have been a great to be here. I want to just take a quick look. There have been a lot of comments I haven't had a chance to see, and I just also want to make sure that I didn't miss anybody who was tuning in. So if you did tune in and I didn't say hello to you, you can pop another hi in the comments right now and make sure that I know that you're here. Thank you for taking the time to be a part and to participate in the conversation. I want to share a little bit about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks here. And for once, we're actually staying on time because I did cut down the presentation from what was originally there. See, there's some wisdom in that. It's another thing that we're looking at doing in the fall. All right, listen, next week's going to be very interesting. We're going to be speaking with a gentleman by the name of Rob Roy, who is himself a recording producer and sound engineer, who is also part of a company that has developed, is getting ready to introduce to the public a brand new technology. We're aware of things like our earbuds that we can use that and other technologies that provide direct sound, decibel control to some degree, and can also be set to where we still hear environmental sounds around us. But there's still limitations to that, either in terms of the decibels and making sure that they are being kept at proper levels for our hearing safety, and also the safety for people in certain situations, occupations, or other situations where it would be important for them to hear what's coming through the earphones, the earbuds, but also to be able to hear environmental sounds for safety. Construction workers, airport ramp workers, hunters, even people lots of times in normal day-to-day situations, joggers, hikers, and others. Well, there's a brand new technology that is enhanced above what has been out there and available to the public in the past. We're going to be demonstrating. I'm actually going to have a set that I'm using next week while we're talking to Rob Roy about this technology and demoing it on the air. So you'll want to be here to see how that works out. And then in a couple of weeks, we got something very special planned. I've been in touch with many of the guests who have appeared on Coffee Breaks with Steve over the last several months, really over the last year. And for those particularly who were dealing with projects or working in certain areas of their own careers or their own settings where there are things that were going to be continuing to happen, things coming up, we're doing an update. I've reached out to them and asked them to provide an update. In some cases, they're providing a brief video where they themselves are telling what they've been up to. In other cases, they're providing the information. I'm going to share it on the air. So you'll be able to catch up with a number of the people who have been appearing and have appeared on Coffee Breaks with Steve. And I hope you'll be a part of that because, once again, it's special to continue to be a part of. If you know of topics or you think of topics or you have ideas about topics, and some of you are doing this regularly, or at least as something comes to mind that you can suggest to me, please do that. You can do that on the Coffee Breaks page. You can definitely reach out to me by email at cbwsteve@comcast.net and share with me any ideas that you have, whether it's a topic, a guest, or a combination of the two. And particularly if there is somebody you know and can make an introduction to who might be a good guest, a good person for us to talk to, let me know about that. I want to know. Once again, a reminder, you can find Coffee Breaks with Steve on podcast sites as well as on our Facebook and YouTube channels. We go live on Facebook and YouTube, so people tuning in and watching this right now can be on either of those channels. On both of those places, both Facebook and YouTube, once the live is over, it's kept there, it's recorded, and you can go back and watch it, or direct people to it, connect people to those locations. But within a day or two of these broadcasts, you can also find Coffee Breaks with Steve episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. On Apple and Google, it's audio only. On Spotify, you can see the full video version as well as listen to the audio. It's another great place to tell people about and send them to if they want to find out more about Coffee Breaks with Steve. And then finally, once again, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the YouTube channel. You can find that by going to YouTube, and it's Coffee Breaks with Steve in the search should work, or at CBWS may work for you. If you have trouble finding our channel, let me know. When you get there, subscribe, check out some of the stuff we've got there, some of the content that we have, and particularly look for the video that has this full presentation from today that will be out there. It doesn't have all of the special day stuff, and it doesn't have the post information that I'm sharing now. It's just the presentation about how often we should do certain things. So please take the time to go out there and check that out. In the meantime, I just want to once again thank you for being a part of the conversation every single week. Many of you are here like clockwork. Many of you also come in here when you can to watch. I appreciate all of you. And would just remind you as you go about your week, whether it is your summer's giving day today or anything else you may be doing in the following week, to find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.